Hi, Palabo here, another flashback episode. But before that, let me ask you to do me a favor. If you like this podcast, would you please share it with one of your friends? Just send them a message saying, hey, you should check this out. All the smart people say that. That's the best way to get new listeners. And I would like to have more people listen to this podcast, as it's the best way to keep me motivated to do more. Obviously, you can also give me 5 stars in your podcast app. Not something that necessarily gives me new listeners, but it's something that makes me happy. If you only want to give me 1 star, please don't do anything. Okay, this episode was recorded in August 2017. It's from a country that I really fell in love with, Nicaragua. Enjoy.
But that's so, I'm thinking, if I'm alone traveling and I'm so ill, who's going to take care of me? You were alone over here. If I don't do it, no.
I had the man flu. I felt sorry for myself.
Meet Palabo, a digital nomad from Denmark on an epic journey around the world.
My name is Palabo, and I'm a long-time radio producer. In 2013, I started planning to become a digital nomad and a full-time traveler. 3 years later, I had sold my house, my car, and all my furniture. And in July 2016, I set out on a quest to visit every country in the world. In this podcast, I'm taking you along on my journey.
This is the Radio Vagabond Podcast.
In the latest episode of the Radio Vagabond Podcast, we visited an orphanage in the northern part of Nicaragua. I was there with my new friend, John Pappas. He's a successful businessman from Canada that's sort of retired and is now a philanthropist. He's giving back to the children from poor families in Nicaragua by putting a lot of time and money into an orphanage here. Also, he's supporting a 19-year-old girl. We finished the latest episode by hearing John say that he found a purpose in life.
For me, this is in French we say un raison d'être. I was always looking and searching for my purpose in life, and I found it.
He's got a bit more to say about this.
I always thought, my purpose in life was to work as hard as I can and make as much money as I could. And I realized, eventually I'm just going to put it in a box and take it with me, or I'm going to leave it here because when I go, I've got nobody to leave it to. So you definitely need to work hard and budget for the future, but you need a reason to be. There has to be some reason. You can't just go day to day, just, living. So I kind of found my reason now. A lot of people say, why do you do it? Or they say it the other way. You help them so much. I say, no. It's what they give us is tenfold what we give them. Tenfold. And people think that, you're going to go adopt a child, let's say in China or, Russia or Vietnam or anywhere. You're going to rescue that child. Believe it or not, people who adopt don't go with the mentality of, I'm going to save a child. It's usually with the mentality that child's going to save me because it's going to give me a reason for living.
Then John wanted to show me a small place where they produce high-class cigars. He is a cigar man, remember? According to John, the Nicaraguan cigar is very good. And on the way there, he tells me that it's crazy, but it's not possible to buy Nicaraguan cigars here in Nicaragua.
Unfortunately, all the tobacco that's grown here, made here, all the cigars, because it's a tax-free zone, are for export only. So they don't actually promote the purchase of their own tobacco products in their own country. So in other words, if you wanted to buy a Nicaraguan cigar in Nicaragua, it would have to be exported and then re-imported. So double tax, only because it's a tax-free zone. So in other words, they don't want to help promote their own product, which could be huge because of tourism being the number one industry. So the tourists can walk away from Nicaragua with fake cigars or Cuban cigars, but can't walk away with Nicaraguan cigars, which is absolutely ridiculous. So finally, after a couple of years of struggle, the Tobacco Association finally managed to convince the government to allow them at least to sell them at the international airport, because literally you would go to the airport and the only thing available for sale was a Cuban cigar.
Breaks the loose tobacco, fills it in to make it even, so there's no soft spots.
And then we enter the small place. Around 25 people are sitting around a few long tables, rolling and shaping the brown tobacco into big cigars.
But then it gets pressed, so it will reduce in size.
I'm not a cigar man, but I can tell that these look beautiful.
Then what it will eventually be once it's pressed in all these.
And I can see that people here really know their craft.
So this cigar is our Neanderthal.
They've done it
So
before.
it's actually made as a salamander. And then what happens is he has two cutters here. He'll cut it end off of both ends so that it turns out to be this shape.
You can see pictures of the small factory on theradiovagabond.com.
Well, I'm Alex Garcia Mesa, aka Tifo Operandi. I'm 36 years right now. I'm a street and graffiti pioneer artist here in Nicaragua.
This is Alex, probably the most successful street artist here in Esteli. He was a street artist pioneer, and around 20 years ago he was just doing graffiti.
I started in '97 with 6 friends that I met over Managua when I was starting there. So it wasn't my plan to meet these people, but I was with some friends hanging around.
He was approached and was a bit surprised. He didn't really know how talented he was.
At that time, I didn't know if I gonna be in all this stuff of graffiti, but I remember one time I was with my friend at the university, and he used to draw a lot of letters and stuff, and I make another type of drawing, more like abstract stuff, right? So somebody passed by and saw the letters on his book, and he said, "That's a very hardcore street graffiti stuff, man." And we were like, "What?"
That meeting changed his life. He didn't really know much about what he was doing, but he had the raw talent. And when he met 2 other talented street artists, he knew what he wanted to do with his life.
So we get prepared to the next Saturday. We buy some spray cans without knowing nothing about how to paint over the walls and stuff. But the feeling that we have inside to go there and see what's going on, we did it. We buy some spray can with trying to manipulate the tips or to try to get thin lines or fat lines and stuff. So we get on the bus, we get to the place, and the first thing that I remember that shocks me in my mind and my soul is watch these dudes making. One, he was making like a face with a gold tooth and stuff, but very clean stuff. His nickname was Fly because his name come like a super fly, the super mosca in Spanish. The other one, his signature was Chuck. So I remember saw these 2 dudes making the graffiti and stuff. I get a big impact in my head, in my soul, and so from there. I don't know how to describe that, man, but from there I just wanted to paint. Just paint over the street, paint. But
You found your passion.
yeah, definitely. But I didn't know that will be my career and my whole life.
Later, we'll hear Alex tell us about how he worked his way from being the new kid in the graffiti group to standing on top as probably one of the most respected street artists in this part of Nicaragua, with his own team and a good, steady income. But before that, let me tell you that this episode is brought to you in part by this website called hotels25.com. If you're a regular listener, you have heard me mention this before, and I can't say this enough. This is a cool website. It helps you find the cheapest hotel rooms around the world. Hotels25.com. You should try it out. It actually works. Before we continue talking to Alex, the street artist, let me take you back to the lake close to Granada, where I met Fernando in the first episode here from Nicaragua. In that episode, we were talking about the cattle company he runs, where investors make a little money and help local farmers at the same time. If you haven't heard about that, go back and listen to episode 80 from Nicaragua. We're at this beautiful area close to the lake, Lago Coquibolca, outside of Granada. And right here is where you find a lot of small islands. In Nicaragua, they call them Las Isletas. I met Fernando at a place called Mancu Lake Paradise.
Mancu means, in Chorotega language, brother, friend. So Mancu Lake Paradise means the paradise of the lake of the friends.
Getting to the place is a bit of a drive, but worth it. Even though it's only 7 miles from Granada, it takes a while to get there because the last half of it is on a not so smooth dirt road. So it's between 20 and 30 bumpy minutes to get here. But once you do, your pulse just slow down. It's so beautiful here and quiet that it's impossible to be stressed here. There's a big round restaurant area without walls overlooking the beautiful lake and the pool. We can also see a few of the small islands. You can sit here at a table or rest in a hammock. This is truly a paradise.
This is a rural area with a lot of animals and flora. And we want to stay like we know. I read a lot of years ago, Squire book. It's a diplomatic of the United States in 1850. And he described how they go from Nicaragua, from Rio San Juan, Granada, and all the country. When he talked about these letters, nothing changed. It's like 150 years ago.
Yeah, maybe we should explain that Isletas means small islands, and it's a part of the big lake here. And how many tiny islands are there?
There are 365.
Yeah.
One for every day of the year.
Ah, okay.
It's
now
easy
it's easy to remember that.
Yeah.
But we are not on one of the islands. We're on dry land. But getting here we had to drive on a dirt road for a bit. We're about 15 minutes outside of Granada, but it's so peaceful. Except for they're working up here is a part of the construction that needs to be finished. So there's a bit of a noise back here. But other than that, we're sitting. Looking at the lake and listening to the animals, and it is just so undescribably beautiful here.
Yeah, and the most important, we are between friends.
Amigos.
Amigos. Say.
Yeah.
Let's go and walk around.
Oh, that would be great. Then Fernando took me for a walk down to the lake. And after that, horseback riding.
Some people tell me the sound of the silence, because there's a lot of sound, not only the voice.
As I mentioned, we could see some of the small islands that Fernando was talking about. Las Isletas were formed when a big volcano erupted here thousands of years ago and threw huge rocks into the lake. The small islands differ in size. The smallest are around 1,000 square feet and the biggest around 100 acres. You can see a map of the area that I put on theradiovagabond.com. It'll give you an impression of what this area looks like. Here you can also see some pictures from a boat ride I took a few days earlier. The islands serve a different purpose. There's around 1,200 people living on the islands. Most of them are fishermen. But I also saw some of the islands that have hotels and luxury houses. There are also uninhabited islands with only some palm trees growing on them. Well, I noticed a small island where the only inhabitants were a small group of monkeys. You can also see pictures and a link to Manku Lake Paradise on theradiovagabond.com. You are listening to the Radio Vagabond podcast. If you like what you hear, please leave a review in iTunes. If you're listening on an iPhone, you can actually do it right there within your podcast app. Let's get back to Esteli, the small town in the northern part of Nicaragua. Through my good friend John Pappas, I had the pleasure of meeting the local street artist Alex. When we left him, he was telling me about the small group of street artists. He had to work hard to get accepted as a part of the tight group.
It's a funny story because at the very beginning that crew didn't want me on the crew. No? Because they didn't trust me at the very beginning, because that thing was more like tight people. There were only like 3 persons in Nicaragua at that time. And I can say over all Central America, painting, graffiti. So they didn't want like get involved with a new dude without any experience and stuff. So that day I didn't paint any stuff over a wall because they say that I don't have a style, whatever and stuff. Well, that was a challenge for me because I told to my other friends, listen, we got to find a wall and make a nice graffiti. Either way, we need to make it. So we prepare a mural and a sketch with my other friend. They used to be a friend at that time. So we found a wall because I have an aunt that have a big wall, and we go there. For start, it was the worst wall in the country because it was made of raw stone. So we put some base. We got with chalk. We didn't know how to make the sketch over the wall because it was our first experience. So we get a piece of chalk and start to making the sketch. It wasn't like a correct direction, but at the end we made the whole graffiti stuff, and it came kind of like good because we didn't know how to do it. And the next weekend we called the other crew, with more experience, and we showed them the graffiti and stuff, and they were like, it's good, it's kind of like good, but that was my entrance to the crew. From there, everybody knows how to make letters, everybody knows how to make characters and stuff, but for me it was more like 1 or 2 years of looking up what to do because I didn't know where to start, what to make, trying to get my own style, right?
Now, 20 years later, Alex is the unofficial king of street art here in Esteli. He's got his own crew, and they do a lot of work for the cigar industry. He's even ventured into making music. So Alex is very happy to be back here in Esteli, where he grew up. He calls this his country.
I love my country. I love my Esteli all the time. I always dream about when I was in Managua to get back to my country because I didn't like it a lot. In Managua it was very hard stuff. The people is very like more hard. I don't know why.
As you might remember from the first episode here from Nicaragua, I'm living in a wonderful big hotel apartment called Paraíso Granada, and I had a week where I got sick. In the beginning, I thought it was food poisoning, but no, it was basically just a simple flu. But that can be bad enough, as any grown man would tell you. For me, it was 4 to 5 days, basically just sleeping and feeling bad. And there I was, alone in a strange country, feeling sorry for myself. But after 2 days, I realized that I wasn't really alone. I'd sent a message to Ellen, the Dutch manager of the hotel, and all of a sudden she came knocking on my door with soup, juice, and fruit, and a few tablets that just might make my stomachache go away.
But that's so... I'm thinking, if I'm alone traveling and I'm so ill, who's going to take care of me? You were alone over here, and if I don't do it, no.
I had the man flu. I felt sorry for myself.
No, and I know. I saw your messages already, so that's what I thought. Oh, the poor guy. I need to take care of him.
I have a problem because I'm leaving tonight, and my fridge is filled with eggs, breads, cut meat, and everything. And I've so much enjoyed eating at the restaurant here and also the restaurants in town. So now my fridge is full, so I have to throw away.
Well, don't worry. Probably there are some very happy ladies here. They always very happy with the leftovers. When I said they always split us in between them.
So I shouldn't throw it out. I should just leave it there.
Just leave it, of course.
Oh, that makes me feel so happy. Thank God.
No, you know what? I know when it was around Christmas, a lot of people left salmon, prosciutto, and champagne, and they never eat it. So they were really, really happy. Yeah.
Oh, nice.
No, that's actually what they like. Because if it's a normal hotel place, maybe people leave their flip-flops or their or their bathing suit, but here they leave really things they can use. Yes.
That was almost it for this episode here from Nicaragua. That was recorded in 2017, back when everything was peaceful here in the country and before the 2018 conflict. I have a few things to say about the situation in Nicaragua right now, here in 2018. I'll do that in a minute, and I encourage you to stay listening. But before that, let me remind you that I would be so thrilled if you would give me some stars in Apple Podcast or in your podcast app. And if you have a few minutes, please write a few lines in a review. It helps other people find this podcast. You can reach me on mail if you have any feedback or questions or tips for me on what to see and who to talk to when I get to a new destination. I promise that I'll answer any email I get on mail@theradiovagabond.com. You can follow me real time, where I am right now, on the official Facebook page, facebook.com/PalaRadioVagabond, and on Instagram and Twitter as Radio Vagabond. Find all these links at theradiovagabond.com, where you can also see a lot of pictures, like the street artist Alex and his work, pictures from the small cigar factory, and from Las Isletas and Manco Lake Paradise. As I mentioned, I want to end this episode to tell you a little bit more about the situation in Nicaragua right now. I want to warn you, this is not going to be ending on a happy note, but I feel that it's important to give both the good and the bad facts about the places I visit. In the process of producing this podcast, I've been talking to a lot of my friends back in Nicaragua. And to describe life there right now in a few words, things are bad. Very bad. Hardly any tourists come there right now, which affects everything. Of course, the economic and people's ability to buy normal groceries. A few words about the places I talked about here in these episodes. Manco Lake Paradise is closed for the time being, and hardly any guests are staying at Paraíso Granada. The restaurant at Paraíso Granada is still open, but mainly just for local guests. Every night there's an armed guard in front of the hotel. And then a few words about the situation in general. I spoke to a lot of people I met in Nicaragua about doing an interview for a special episode about Nicaragua, but we agreed that it would just be too dangerous. Even if we made it anonymous and I didn't say their name and I alter their voices, it would still not be worth the risk. Instead, I will tell you some of the stuff I've been told. I will not tell you who told me what. Again, because this would be too dangerous for them. But I guarantee that everything I'm going to tell you is something that was told to me by local Nicaraguans. There's a new law in Nicaragua. When you speak out against the government, you can be arrested and sent to prison for 30 years after basically a mock trial where you're not able to get qualified legal representation and you cannot appeal the sentence. You just go away for 30 years. The government police are analyzing pictures from demonstrations, and anyone they can find from the pictures are getting a nightly visit from them and will be arrested, probably tortured, and sent to prison for 30 years. I was told horrific stories about people having their tongues cut off and their fingernails pulled out as a means of torture. I've also heard about squads of heavy armed militant policemen storming houses with automatic weapons in the middle of the night. I spoke to someone that walks around his house every night to see if there's a chalk mark on the house that would indicate that he's next. He told me that he feels he's too old to live through torture and prison, so he has told his wife that if they came, he would kill himself with his own 9mm gun. He had a conversation with his wife if she wanted him to shoot her before he shot himself. Can you even imagine having that conversation with your wife? But that is the state of life in Nicaragua right now. And I really don't understand why this is not covered more in the news here in the Western world. Many of the people I've talked to say that there's not much hope of anything getting better anytime soon, and that their biggest hope is that the UN will send troops to help them. Let me finish off with a recording I did with Ellen in Granada back in August 2017, just before leaving. Is it okay if I come back again? Because when I'm leaving tonight, I'm leaving a bit of my heart here.
Actually, you need to come for sure. And bring your kids. Yeah? You should take them over here. And I love you having with us over here. The part of Denmark and Nicaragua. The only thing, the next time you need to take me on your trips because you've seen things I haven't seen. So then you're going to be my tour guide.
Okay, that's the deal. I did leave a bit of my heart there, and I do want to go back, and I do want to bring my kids. It's just not something I can do right now, and that breaks my heart. Next week I'll be back in the US for my second road trip. This time I'll go from Atlanta to New York, and I'm so looking forward to that. My name is Palle Bo. See ya.